Hello, fellow Minecrafters. Gearsaw Studios here. Today I'm going to show you how to build a cliffside house. Since with 1.18 right around the corner, it's about time to have a nice cliffside house. So, with that, onto the tutorial. As any good builder should do, we have to select a palette for this. For my version of this, I'm going to be using a pretty basic palette consisting of stripped and unstripped oak logs, and the planks of birch, oak, and spruce, because they all just go together pretty well. Then you have to choose your location. If you're still playing on 1.17 or below, you're probably going to have to terraform an area, or you're gonna have to get lucky with an extreme hills or any stuff like that. But here on 1.18, these shores are very good places to build them. So I'm going to build it on this wall. In order to begin building, we should also make an entrance, because you aren't going to get much done if you can't even get into your build. So, what I recommend doing is making some sort of octagon entrance to your base. So, place down some stairs like this, select a random distance away, make more stairs, then place blocks up, and you might want to reduce the size of this in case your cliff is small. Then go up again, over here, place your stairs again, and now we have a pretty big entrance here. So I'm actually going to reduce the size of this, but make it about a little smaller than this. Now I have this kind of diamond shaped entrance, and it's not really an entrance right now since there's no actual way to access it. So I recommend putting in a door, as anything should have. Then maybe you can have the bottom part stripped oak, because that's going to be the theme of the build, and then filling the rest in with some oak planks. So now that you do it like this, and careful not to destroy any stairs, now we have an entrance to our base. Of course, it does need some lighting and it needs some ladders. So maybe place down a support beam like this and put a ladder on it. It's just an idea, and you can come up with your own creative ways to get into your base. Sometimes the design I listed above doesn't work, so I've designed another thing. Instead of that, you can install a walkway, and then you can have a cool support beam or support beams going down from it, like this. Of course, it could have some improvements, but it's still a pretty cool concept that I thought of. So make sure it goes all the way down, and then you can install some ladders onto it, all the way down to your desired Y level. And now you can get into your base pretty good using this. Now, I've added my own little spice to the support beams by completely removing the logs and just adding new ones in different patterns like this. So now we can get into this cliffside house, if you could even call it that, because we have to dig out an area behind this. So just dig out a couple of hallways, preferably 3x3 like this, and just make rooms. Now we've dug out a small portion of this area, so I recommend starting to build the walls. The wall design's pretty simple here. On the corners, oak logs, everywhere else, oak planks with stripped oak logs on the bottom, and just repeat everywhere. And it's pretty simple, but it can be a little bit costly, so you might have to set up some trees somewhere. Now, for this area, we're going to have a spiral staircase. Since ladders are a little bit basic, and spiral staircases are some of the coolest things you can build, because they get you up fast and they're spirally. Now we have a basic entrance to our base, and we have birch floors and ceilings that are made out of oak. So it's time for the spiral staircase. So spiral staircases might seem daunting at first, but they're actually incredibly simple. What you have to do is place down a slab, then place down two slabs to make a block, and then you keep using the slabs like this in order to create the staircase. And it works pretty well at getting you up fast anyways, so there's basically no trade-offs to using this, besides maybe some slabs being used. So we are at a desirable level, so we can continue digging it out. Now, up here, I raised the staircase by 1 because I thought it looked better anyways. So, it's kind of dark up here. So, I recommend just digging out an extra block up here, placing down some oak planks, and installing a lantern, because lanterns are quite handy tools that provide even more light than a torch does. Along with that, they are relatively cheap, only costing about 1 iron ingot. Because they require iron nuggets, it makes them pretty cheap. And you can craft them in bulk if you have a little bit of iron. So I recommend doing that. Looking on the outside of this house, it looks pretty cool, but there's something else you should do to it. Looking on the inside, this starts cutting it pretty close to the outside. So I'd recommend making another one of those ring holes here for the bedroom, preferably with a large window, since it does not have an entrance. So start digging out an area and place down another one of these. Now I've done a little bit of a jump cut over here, but you can see that I'm preparing this window. Because it's a window, you have to do some special stuff to it, and since I'm playing on 1.18, I do not have connected glass like most of my other videos. But if you do this right, and you will have a little bit of wood peeking out, you can have a window here, and it looks pretty nice, especially with the little spruce pieces sticking out, which gives a little bit of depth when viewed from afar. So try to make sure that you have this installed. Then dig out the rest of the room according to this shape. Now, this is going to be the bedroom for this house, but there's a bit of an issue. We have this little box here for the spiral staircase. So what I did is I put the copper blocks on the corners in order to make it look supported. Although this is probably going to be one of the only 2 in this entire build, it's still a neat detail to have some copper in the build. Now, shape the rest of the room and make sure to do the correct wall design that I displayed earlier. And it can be kind of annoying to get the logs right, but it's definitely worth it in the end. Now, this room is really coming together. And don't forget to add your torches, and you can also add some crown molding by the little details here. So, just fill in the rest of the room, and then start placing a bed. Now, this room is ready to be decorated. These little details here can actually be converted into a nightstand, or nightstands. So here we have this, and you can add more beds if you want, but I'm content with sticking with just one. You can also add another lantern for lighting, and a flower pot, such as a flowering azalea, since this is 1.18 where they're readily available. Now we got a pretty nice room, and we can add some barrels with some slabs attached to them in order to make a little dresser, which can also be used as an emergency tool set room. Now we got a pretty sick bedroom. Now for this area over here, it's time to build up a storage system because you won't want to constantly be going out and finding your chest monster inside your old base or just a little outpost. Instead, having a storage room readily accessible here is a much better choice. Decorate it like this, and instead of using chests, I recommend using barrels, because barrels are more lag efficient, better looking in some scenarios, and don't require blocks to not be above them. And you can stack them like this in order to create a pretty neat wall design like this. So stack them up, and make sure that they're all facing the same way, which is up or to the side. And just start doing it like this. You can also use item frames, which is another alternative to this system. So now we got a pretty sick area right here where we can constantly see all of our items. Although some of them are mismatched, you can see. So some rotations can be done. Now this area is decorated, and we have one wall made into a utility. And this ceiling I somehow forgot to do. But make sure to complete all your ceilings. For this wall, we're going to use the different types of furnaces, since having a good furnace array, or possibly even a super smelter, is an amazing thing to have in any base. because it's just a nice utility. The different variants are good for different things, but if you have to make sacrifices, always go with the normal furnace since it's used for all purpose. So just line them up like this, or you can do them in a different order, preferably smoker on top actually, but it's still a thing you can do. Now for the final part of our base, we are going to have a nice brewing station. So what you can do is you can just start making a little area here like those normal walls, but a little bit more deepened. And you can surround this area and fill it up with water. And of course add an actual floor, like this. And now you have your water needed for brewing. Then fill in the walls like you'd normally do. And then you can place down some brewing stands. And preferably have a barrel nearby. But it's not too needed since we have the storage system right here. So just fill in this area, and now you have a neat little brewing area. So that way, if you're on Bedrock Edition and doing this, you can just pull out your cauldron, get tipped arrows, and shoot anyone trying to get into your house without your permission. Now, for our final portion of this build, we are going to build a final one of these rings. So go 3 blocks down, and then start building it like you've done the rest of the time. This ring is going to be for the enchanting room window, since if you're going to live here long term, it would be rather annoying to not be able to access an enchanting table. So, start placing this around, and just finish up this ring. The purpose of this final ring is, of course, the enchanting room, but we need to find a way to connect it up. So, going into spectator mode, you can see that the back of this is a little bit lower, so we're going to have to make the spiral staircase also go down. So that means getting the slabs out again, and just going down. This room is a near identical copy of the room above here, so I'm just cut out all the footage of me building this room since it's basically the same. But now we have to build the actual enchanting room. So, inside of here, we're going to have to place down the glass again, so we're going to have to be rather precarious with our bookshelf placing. Of course, we can't have it too close to the walls because that's where the glass is going to go. So, you're going to have to do some various trade-offs in order to fit it. Now, this room is done with the glass put in, and the trade-off I had to make was bookshelves without an ending here, which isn't actually that bad. But it's still something you have to sacrifice if you're building it this shape. But looking at the table, it's level 30, so that's all that really matters. Now, all we have to do is put in some of the finishing details of this build. Of course, making this consistent with the other rings, so that means placing down some spruce here. And another thing is, I completely neglected to add a single crafting table throughout the entire build, so that's something else, if you followed my steps exact. And don't forget your stone cutters and other utilities, so make sure to do that. And the neat little detail is some armor stands, especially if you're prone to dying a lot. So just place down some armor stands, decorate them with some good armor, like this iron. If you're on Bedrock, give them a sword and shield. And now we got a pretty cool room here. So include some more lighting, and then your build is done. Now, just make sure that everything is at light level 0 if you're on 1.18, or light level 7 if you're not on 1.18. Now that the build is done, let's just take a quick tour of the build. You get in through this nice little unique staircase design here. That's more of just a ladder, not a staircase. And then once you actually get into the build, you have this little balcony so you can look around. You can go in the build, your iron armor and utilities, and you can either go downstairs for your enchanting, or you could go upstairs for the actual build itself. So, here we have all your utilities, and over here we have a bedroom. So, it's a very neat build that is perfect for surviving long term. So, with that, it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. So, with that, take care. Thanksgiving's coming up. Gearsaw out.